Welcome to Chanakya, where you get the right guidance at the right time. We have an interesting challenge in the area of estimation, for which we will seek inputs from our experts, JV and Srini. Here's the challenge. Ravi is a project manager working for Prakash in the retail services BU for Excel Infotech. Nilesh, the sales manager based in Atlanta, has a requirement from a prospect for an application to be developed. There is a two-page description of this application, and Nilesh wants Ravi to give a ballpark estimate for the effort for this since the prospect wants to do budgeting based on this estimate. Okay. Ravi responded assuming that he was just giving a ballpark estimate. In a few days' time, Ravi and Prakash had a pleasant surprise as well as a shock. Simultaneously, when Nilesh came back and said that the prospect has decided to award the project to Excel Infotech, since Excel was the lowest cost bidder. While Prakash was excited that this was a new customer with a lot of potential for future businesses, Ravi was almost mad. He was mad that Nilesh had used a ballpark estimate to give a firm bid and get the deal. He knew that there were many open questions on the scope, and there was no way the team was going to be able to keep the estimate given. So Ravi's expectation is that it could even be 40 to 50% more effort than the ballpark estimate given. He takes out his frustrations on Prakash in a long meeting. The engineering management team of Ravi and Prakash has to decide how to go about the situation. So what would your recommendation be, JV?
There seems to be a large communication gap, huge communication gap, right? Now I can empathize with Ravi. There seems to be some major confusion. He should have actually done a couple of things, right? Now a ballpark figure has actually become a bid, actually agreed bid. Typically, when you do give a ballpark estimate, you actually, when you're asked for a ballpark estimate, you typically give a range. You actually don't give one number, right? So that's one thing that Ravi probably has not done right. Second thing is you always add a buffer, right? Customer is actually using these requirements, the bid that you have given, to actually award the project based on what you have given, right? So you typically add some kind of a buffer. I believe that these two things Ravi probably seems to have missed out, right? Now he knew that it was a sketchy requirements document, so he should have had a call with the customer if he needed, the prospect if it was needed. So he didn't do that as well, right? Now, typically when you give a range, let's say you give a range of 4 to 5% years, when the customer awards the contract to you, and if they say 4% years, you have the option to go back and say, hey, we gave a range because there was a bit of a confusion in the scope or possibility for a scope not being very clear. So you should have gone back, you can go back and say 5% years rather than 4% years. So it would have given Ravi some buffer to work with. If you had also added a buffer, so much better. Now coming and saying, 40 to 50% higher, doesn't make Ravi look good in the eyes of any of the stakeholders. That's unfortunate.
That makes sense, JV. So just a quick follow-up question on that. See, the ballpark estimate was supposed to be given for budgetary purposes. So does that play a role in setting a ballpark estimate?
It does play a role, but when somebody gives an estimate, right, the customer tends to assume that that's really what you have estimated, right? That's really the you can actually say put bold letters and say ballpark, it could change, all of that you could do, but generally customers get a number and say, oh, that looks like a good number, let's go with that. And the sales guys typically feel excited about it, and they say, oh, okay, great, we got the contract. So it's probably a little bit of experience that played a role here. If Ravi was experienced in dealing with similar situations, maybe he would have been a little bit more careful.
That makes sense, JV. Yeah. So Ravi should have considered a buffer and given a range for the estimate, right, in summary. However, I feel Nilesh also has a role to play here, right? Considering that lack of effective communication, was on his part, and that's another reason why, they're in this situation. So what's your view, Srini? Shouldn't Nilesh also make some amends in some way in this case?
Well, first of all, Nilesh is a sales guy, so he's probably enjoying right now that he closed the deal very quickly.
He's having a champagne.
Right? Yeah, I think it is unfortunate that Nilesh did not get Ravi and Prakash involved in the commitment, or At least that's the way I interpret. We still don't know the full story here, right? Okay, but that's bygones. Now let's look at what can be done now. When you typically win in such a quick time, one of the things that can be done is before you sign the SOW or the contract, right? Try to introduce the right terms and conditions. I'm reminded of when I get an unlimited internet pack, there is something called a fair usage policy. Maybe here you bring something like a fair assumptions,
Absolutely.
right? Fair response time from the customer, so that you minimize the impact. Remember, some of these things on the scope, on the schedule, may not be apparent today. They're going to be through the lifeline of this project. So they are like time bombs ticking to be blown away down. So that's what I would think where Nilesh should step in. Yeah.
Yeah, I said time bomb ticking, I said could explode any time.
Yeah, we want to diffuse it, right? So I agree with Srini actually. So the situation where everyone needs to chip in, right? And Nilesh has an important role to play, right? Yeah. So having said that, I mean, let's come back to Ravi. Ravi still has the prime responsibility for delivering on this, right, JV? So what is that Ravi could do? I think to maximize the probability of success.
So he has multiple things to do, not just one. And he has different stakeholders to deal with, right? If I were Ravi, I will probably start with Nilesh and the prospect in the first place, right? The scope has been given to me, the project has been awarded to me. Now I want to clarify the scope and make sure that the scope is frozen or at least agreed upon, clearly agreed upon, right? There's no ambiguity there. And if during that process they find that the scope is slightly different from an interpretation perspective than what was actually in the 2-page scope statement that the customer had sent before, the prospect had sent before, then Ravi has a chance to actually, look for some additional funding from the customer, right? I know that it's a long shot, doesn't happen in most cases, but if a scope statement can be interpreted differently, right, you can actually bring that out, and Nilesh can actually play a role in getting that additional funding because it's something in it for him also, right? But if it is not, at least the best thing that they can do is to freeze out the scope, say this is what we are going to deliver, and get into an agreement on that. That's the first thing that he can do. Second key stakeholder for Ravi is Prakash, his own manager, right? Ideally, Prakash should have got involved in the bidding process or the ballpark estimate process, should have actually asked questions of Ravi and ensured a range was given and a buffer was added, all of that. I'm assuming that due diligence probably was not done in this case, may not have been done. Now Prakash has a responsibility to ensure that Ravi succeeds. So he sits with Ravi, looks at his assumptions and ensures that all the assumptions have been factored in, risks have been considered, the estimates seem reasonable, and if it does mean that he has to give some additional funding or resources to Ravi from the large group that he actually manages, he should probably make that available. Now it might mean taking a hit on the gross margin, but Ravi has to influence Prakash in making that happen. That's the second stakeholder that he works with. The third obviously is his team, right? Now having tried these two, he goes back to the team. Now team is very upset obviously because a ballpark estimate has actually become a final one, and they have not been involved in this whole exercise. But Ravi has to talk to the team, tell them the situation that actually caused this to happen. And get the buy-in, share a common vision. It's a new customer, so there can be repeat business, so they have something in it for them. It's a new technology, new area, maybe they can gain some skills. So use some of those to actually get the team rallied around. Ask them for suggestions on productivity, tools, etc., right? So he can actually try and get some, gains in productivity through that process. And if he can do that, if he can get the team aligned and rallied around, there's nothing like it. Anything else?
That's a great summary, JV. So I think what I like about all the three things you talked about, working with stakeholders, all of them are proactive measures and looking forward rather than going back and saying, who did what wrong, and so it doesn't get into the blaming mode and it gets into the forward thinking ahead and what can be done. It's fantastic actually. So any additional thoughts, Srini?
I think JV has done a good job of telling everything. Actually, one of the interesting things that JV said, and I want to reiterate, is the fact that he said, how can you make it win-win for Nilesh in spite of this? Yeah. The change order can be more sales, right? I think that's a very good point that JV brought up, right? But a couple of other things that Ravi can probably do In all such cases where risk is very high, fundamentally ensure that your risk management process is very sound. Don't lump it up and just put on big broad risk. I have a scope risk, I have an assumption risk or something like that. Break it down as small as possible, because as each one of them vanish, right, it gives you better confidence, you can run this project better. It also lets your management know what is still the residual risk, right? So you will have to make sure that you do that job very well. That's fundamentally one of the things that I would say that he should do it, right, to get this moving.
And it's also that risks will be specific. Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. You're spot on, right? The risk is specific, right? So that you can track each one of them to finite closure. It gives your team a confidence that you're progressing. It gives the management what is still residual.
So talking about management, I mean, is there a way Ravi or Prakash should involve their management, more senior management?
Yes,
Is that-
so that's the next point I wanted to bring up. The next point I wanted to bring up is, look, given the fact as JV bought out, there could be impacts on the margin, right? And as the engineering management team now that Ravi and Prakash are working closely with Nilesh to get this solved, it may be good for Ravi and Prakash to actually brief Prakash's boss, right? Keep him aware, look, exciting that we won the deal in just a couple of days,
Yeah.
but here are the risks.
Yeah.
Should something happen, right? Buying that little bit of an insurance very early on, I think is a great way to do it.
Yeah. Okay, good. Great perspective, Srini, and thanks to both of you for bringing out some excellent inputs. So let me attempt a quick summary based on what I've been listening to you. So first is Ravi to ensure that scope is clarified and frozen as soon as possible, right? And ensure that potential scope creep or ambiguity is minimized. And he can do that by working with Nilesh, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is leverage Prakash to get any additional resources he may need to execute the project, right? And the third is what JV you were saying, what involve the team in coming out with ideas, right, for optimizing the effort and improving productivity, because you've got a tight budget here. Right? And finally, what Srini was mentioning about risks, right? Identify and document risks and track execution carefully, bringing out red flags well in time. And like you said, the risks have to be very specific to this project, not the generic type of risks, right? And in this process, Ravi and Prakash to involve Prakash's manager, right, as well needed, to make sure overall organization interests are met. Is that a fair summary, Srini, JV?
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Srini and JV. I'm sure PMs like Ravi will find your perspectives very useful, and thank you for joining us.